Welcome to a Makeover Monday. My name is Jason Tiller, Head of Partnerships here at Rocketspark, and with me I've got Jeremy Johnson, Head of Product. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jason.
So let's talk about the Nothing Naughty website makeover.
Cool. So we've been working with Nothing Naughty, a long-time Rocketspark e-commerce client, and had a look at helping them redesign their homepage lately. So just diving right into it at the start here, we're getting started by copying the homepage so that we can work on the new design sort of in private while the current homepage remains completely unchanged. So I'm just changing the page name of that new page to make it easy to find. And you'll see there that it's just kept in offline mode, so no one will be able to see it unless they're logged in. So it's just a matter of clicking through to that page and getting started with the editing. So I'm going to leave the header editing there till later and get started with the actual on-page elements. So you'll see on the right there, that's the design that I'd prepared earlier. And I've decided not to use the feature area slideshow, so I just delete all the slides there and remove that feature area. And I'm actually doing that top section with a stack.
Yeah, brilliant. And then so just adding a single column stack, and then what's quite handy is you've got a bit of an idea already with the design on the right hand side, what you want to achieve at the top there.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the other things that I kind of learnt from doing this as well is that there's major time savings from having all of your images in a nice tidy folder. There was a few places sort of going through this design where I realized I didn't have an image here or there sort of ready to go hunting for, and actually really slowed down the design process. So here I've just added a heading in a text block and a button block, and now just changing the styling of that stack. So I'm adding a green background color, and I actually add an image as well later and reduce the opacity of the image to reveal a bit of that green color, and that just helps that white text stand out. And just changing that button style to an outlined button.
It's really nice. It seems to be quite a common button style, quite trendy at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And so I kept a consistent button style through the whole page, so you'll see that I use this look on all of the buttons.
Nice. And you're changing the font as well?
Yes, I made the button nice and large, just as the first thing for people who are coming with the intention to buy, have a product in mind. Just wanted the Shop Now button to be really obvious. And the old feature area had quite long sort of text messaging on each slide, and it was just quite a lot to take in and go through 4 different slides. And so we've simplified that initial first impression down to that clear message of nutrition for health, which kind of sums up what they're all about.
Nice. And then a bit of full height stack spacing. Obviously space is really important for an e-commerce site.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want the design to feel busy. You want it to feel really comfortable and relaxed. So again, just a look at the side by side there. So that top stack is now finished. We've just added that image background, and it's got that green tint to it. So here, just work on this win stack. So that heading before was quite long. So here, just shortening that down to make the message more punchy, and that paragraph as well.
No, that's really cool, Jeremy. The obviously it's quite an important part of their on-page messaging, so it sits quite high up on the page.
Yeah.
Did you have to kind of think a lot about the hierarchy of messaging as you were designing, or did you kind of have an idea in mind?
It is really important, but that actually done really well with the kinds of content and the order of the content on the page. So I didn't have to change much in terms of order or add much additional content. It was just a matter of changing the way that it was displayed or laid out or spaced. Just putting a bit more visual emphasis on it and focusing on that comfort idea of just making things really clear. So the example on the right with the really large win text, it sort of draws you in. And the shorter heading, the colors are on brand with their brand standards document, and so they had some really nice colors in the brand standards document that I've used on the design.
That's really cool, and obviously it makes the design process easier when you're not having to kind of pick and choose as you go. You've got a set palette to work with.
Yeah, and you'll see there when I'm picking colors, once you get sort of a roll on, they start to show in your recent colors there, and so it just makes it really fast to sort of quickly pick those colors.
That's right, because from a design perspective, we really want to try and make it as efficient as possible, and that's one of those little kind of tools in the tool belt that really help with that process.
Yeah, definitely. And here, so just aligning everything to the middle of the stack, so that win text is just in the middle of that stack, and increasing the size there. And their brand standards actually said that to use Poppins as the font, and so they hadn't actually been using that font on there. So it's just a matter of changing all of those fonts. And yeah, we could change those fonts site-wide, and later I did actually do this for them. But just while we're testing a new concept, and I didn't want to disrupt other pages too much, I'm just doing it with the stack-specific styling.
That's really cool. And you've gone with the left aligned button in that right hand side column?
Yeah, so with text paragraphs of sort of longer than 2 or 3 lines and headings, I like to go with a left aligned sort of margin. It just sort of makes it really easy to read, and so it's just a matter of lining that button up with that text left margin there. So now just jumping onto the grid gallery here. So I've added a new grid gallery rather than using their existing ones where that had separate rows for separate grid galleries. So we actually removed the background of these images to give them a nice clean white background, and that can be done with the likes of a really easy tool like Canva. So they've got a remove background button, and then you can add that white background in. And we just added some extra white space around the products just to give plenty of breathing room, so you can put the text over clear air so it's not over top of the actual product itself. And by giving plenty of space, you'll see the images on the left are actually a little small, but I can zoom those in the grid gallery settings, and I do that a little later on.
And again, that's just part of that being prepared for the job, right? With you having your images in the right place and obviously preparing them with that white background and a bit of that breathing room.
Yeah, definitely. It just gives you that flexibility. And if someone is preparing your images for you, you've got a photographer that's touching up the images or whatever, then it'd be really easy for them to prepare the images in that way for you. And later on, we actually upload an image with a transparent background. So getting them to do a version with the white background and a version with a transparent background is good too. So there, I've just gone through and added the text for each image, and just changing the color there to the brown from their palette, changing the font to Poppins, and just changing the font size down a little bit so that the text doesn't wrap onto multiple lines there.
Yeah, like the plant-based meat alternatives one. Perfect.
Yeah.
Look at that. And what I really like too is the ability to be able to just reorder those images by dragging them around. I think it's a really nice feature.
Definitely, yeah. And I also, you might have caught there that I just added a bit of gap spacing in between each of the images, and it just creates definition and really clear that all of those images are uniform, which creates a really tidy design. So here I'm just adding the links so that they link to their landing pages, or that you could link to an e-commerce category as well. You see the e-commerce tab there.
And internal linking is really important for good SEO.
It is, yeah, but it's also important for a great user journey. So the order of the page that you touched on earlier, so the competition is a seasonal thing, and so they want to make sure that that's getting enough eyes. But beyond that, and the big shop now button at the top, showing your categories, showing your popular products, that's putting sort of your best assets higher up the page, your highest converting assets, and
nice. And then I can also see that you've added a touch of movement to the products as well.
Yeah, so it just adds that sort of interactive feel that the product images enlarge slightly when you mouse over, and the text moves slightly. Just adds a bit of polish to it. And so here you'll see that on the right hand side it's scaling up, depending on the window size. So I want to get that effect on the left side as well, where it's just staying a fixed size. So in width and spacing, if you go full width, which that's a little bit big, but then if you increase the left and the right spacing, then that'll set that at a reasonable amount, and it'll actually scale up like the version on the right, depending on the window width. So this is really nice for people on different screen sizes.
And so here we're just copying a bit of code. What's that from, Jeremy?
So that's a reviews widget from a plugins tool called Elfsight. So that works really nicely with the Rocketspark code block. So they give you the code and you paste it in. You can tweak your colors of the widget in Elfsight and paste it in, and it sucks in your reviews from Facebook or Google or a range of places. And I've chosen a sand background color for both of those stacks, and that wasn't actually in their palette. There was with web design, it's really good to contrast, a few different background colors, and white is really good, and sort of having some pale pastels, and that was something that I chose a complementary color to their brand standards colors. So this was an existing stack, and I thought it was pretty good sort of value propositions going on here. So I just sort of tidied up the spacing a little bit.
And a two-column stack.
Yeah, so this is the one stack that we did add. So I asked them if there was any kind of new products that they wanted to give more prominence to, or just existing products. And the keto range was something they wanted to sort of zoom in on a little bit. So yeah, just adding a 50-50 split stack. And you'll notice I've put a few sort of full width stacks between the last 50-50 looking stack, which was that competition one. And it's just to give a bit of sort of breathing room between them. If you put those next to each other, it sort of diminishes the visual impact of that as a design tool.
That's great. And so what have you just done in behind the text there with those little illustrations?
Yeah, so again, this is something that, if you've got someone preparing your graphics, like they've got a graphic designer doing their artwork for their packaging, you could get them to just save you a few JPEGs of the illustrations. And so, then you can upload those as a column background image. So once I add a bit more spacing, you'll sort of see the line art fruit appear there, and just adds that extra little bit of sort of professionally designed look and feel.
Yeah, that's really nice. And the colors, again, just on brand, but you've got a nice kind of contrast between the light and the dark brown. Or would you call it a brown? Sorry, not a designer?
As was caramel and all sorts of wonderful names in the brand standards, but it was a really well done brand standards document. But yeah, there was some really nice shades of colors. I think both of those were definitely in the brand standards document. It was just those really pale pastel backgrounds that were probably lacking that are really useful in a web context.
Yeah. And so here you've got this clear-cut image that we were talking about before.
Yeah, so this is just uploaded as what's called a PNG file, so that can have a transparent background on a website, and that reveals that column background color of the sort of darker brown there, for a cool visual effect. So just coming back to the stack that I'd sort of done some work on a little bit earlier. So, just changing all of the fonts to Poppins again. And a personal preference of mine, as I touched on earlier, is for text about this long or longer, I like to have left-aligned text. So I keep that top sort of heading one as centered just for balance. I just reduce the width a little bit, just so that the line length isn't too long, just improves readability. And changing all of the paragraph colors to dark brown as well, just sort of feels more on brand rather than the sort of harsher black text color.
That's right. And I like how the headings are defined as you're changing them, which is quite a useful little Rocketspark feature. So when you mouse over each one, it kind of tells you which paragraph or heading those settings relate to, which is quite useful.
Yeah, that little blue outline is super helpful, as you mentioned, Jason.
So that's really good. And then obviously you've got a bit of workflow stuff here with the ability to be able to copy stacks quite easily.
Yeah, so just because those two stacks have effectively the same styling, I just did a little bit of a cheat shortcut here of copying that stack and then dragging the excess ones up into the stack above. So it just means I don't have to redo those font settings, and the styling of those two will remain design linked. So if I change the design of one, it'll update the other one.
Nice. And you've just hovered over the code there. Is that the little HTML snippet for the ticks that are showing up?
It is, yeah. So that they already had that tick there. But you can do things like that as well using a tool called Font Awesome, which is an icon library, and we've got a help guide at support.rocketspark.com with how to add Font Awesome icons as well.
Nice, that's really cool. And obviously giving it a bit of breathing room.
Yeah, just spacing that out. So you'll see even though that text is left aligned, it still has a sort of centered balance to it. So this really wide subscribe form was quite full on, and it doesn't have a sort of a clear heading to give it context. So I thought I would move that into a new sort of site-wide footer just so that people could subscribe from anywhere, and we can do a much narrower form. So just moving the order of things around slightly at the bottom here, once we've got past our sort of key selling propositions further up the top, moving on to some other angles like becoming a nothing naughty retailer. So here I just move all of the text elements together, just so that they're not splitting the eye so much. So moving that paragraph over there and the button over there. I'm going to do the picture as a column background image. So changing that to a 2-column.
And then full widthing it, and then adding that column background. Just to touch on while you're just editing this bit here, just further up the page was those keep it real, the value sustainability things. They're really good for one of our Rocketspark design vision sort of principles around information at a glance. Being able to deliver that much information that quickly with some headings in a short paragraph can be really valuable.
Yeah, definitely just helps people understand sort of what you're about. It's pretty rare for a Rocketspark client to be the only business doing what they're doing. And so helping visitors and potential customers understand what makes you different from your competitors is really important.
That's really cool. And again, just changing up the fonts. And as Jeremy said before, we're not doing it at the site level because of the nature of the makeover process. But it's really good to see, again, just that font consistency through the page. Obviously, it's probably not something that everybody would notice, but it's something that you might kind of subconsciously sort of feel that there's something not quite right if you're not matching your fonts as you go through the page.
Yeah, definitely. And so there I was just changing from an H1 to an H2 heading. So it just didn't feel like H1 is basically effectively telling Google that's your most important heading, which we know that wasn't the most important heading. So just changing that to an H2. So that yellow pastel background color there was another color that wasn't in the brand standards document that I added in. So the brand standards document colors were mostly darker, which on the packaging, as you see there, the blue color there on the packaging and the green, they look really nice on the packaging, but on a screen, you just need that sort of comfort and relaxed look of sort of paler backgrounds just for readability sometimes.
Was there a particular principle that you sort of used to pick those lighter colors?
Yeah, I was just looking for complementary colors. So the image that I use in the column background on the right hand side that I haven't got to yet, I think that has a touch of yellow to it. And so it's just drawing out the more vibrant colors in the imagery or in the brand. So there's the yellow there as well. So there's a bit of a tendency in their branding to have a strong kind of vibrant version of the color and a lighter version of the color, and so I've just taken that concept even lighter and even paler.
Nice. And I noticed that as you're going through some of these stacks, you're unlinking the design.
Yeah, so when you copy a page, so I've copied from the existing homepage, the design setting, so your fonts, colors, sizing, stays linked to the homepage. And if I didn't unlink these stacks on this copied page, changing the fonts, colors, and sizing here would actually update on the homepage, which is not what we're wanting to do here.
Sure. And then so just adjusting the space and giving it enough room to do what it needs to do. And then I noticed that you've missed a picture there, Jeremy, next to the Become a Nothing Naughty retailer stack.
Yeah, so just another example, I didn't have that picture sort of handy. I had it on my computer, but it wasn't prepped. So it just shows that sort of inefficiency of not getting all your images prepped before you start designing. It actually adds a surprising amount of time to the process.
And then so we've got, is that just an Instagram stack that's pulling through there with all those pictures?
Yep, so that's their existing Instagram stack, which is really easy to set up with Rocketspark, and I just added a new heading on the brand standards, and it gave that sort of sand background color.
That's really nice. And then so obviously the buy now, pay later services are seeing a big uptake in e-commerce at the moment.
Yeah, it can make a really significant impact on your cart completion and cart size and that kind of thing. So they were already using lay-by. That lay-by logo is actually the old lay-by logo, so I just update that to the new one further on. So in terms of building this 4-column footer, site-wide footer, I moved the lay-by messaging into the footer, the subscribe form into the footer, and actually adding sort of a sitemap of their key categories into the footer as well. So you'll see here just adding text links in that left column. And I focus on just getting the content in there first and then tweak the fonts, colors, sizing at the end when I'm done.
That's really, really nice. And then a bit of a title there, and away we go. So in the with the footer at the moment, it's not site wide, is it?
That's correct. Yeah, so they actually already have a site-wide footer. It's a black sort of band at the bottom with 2 text links, and so I delete that a little later on in the recording, and add this new one site-wide. So when you remove a site-wide footer, it sort of vacuum cleaner sucks it in from all of your pages onto the one page where you remove it from, and then you can delete that stack. And then when you create your new one, you can create it from any page. And then you can just click a button and that will push it out to all pages. So there I just actually added a social buttons block and added it in icon mode. So you can display the social icons as buttons, so wider buttons, or just as little icons.
And obviously for a footer, lot of information in a small amount of real estate. So you've just gone for the icons rather than a full button.
Definitely, yep. It's a bit of a sort of standard trend. Going for all fairly consistent colours. So footers can be sort of more subtle in terms of design. They just sort of blend in there. They're there if you need them. The headings are clear as a bolder font, so the Poppins bold. Just reduce the size to keep it all on one line. If you can keep headings on one line, it just feels tidier and easier for the visitor to sort of process what they're seeing. But yeah, the contrast of the bold heading and the lighter sort of paragraph text is good.
Yeah, it's really nice. I like the consistency of a footer across a site. You always know if you get to the bottom of the page what you can expect to find. So whether it's your social buttons, more information about lay-by, or in this case also being able to subscribe for offers as well is pretty cool. And so have you done a little bit of form styling here as well?
Yeah, so just changed the background color of the form and just changing the button styling of the form. It's just below the screen there in the recording, but so just again getting that subscribe form looking on brand with the rest of the site.
Yeah, because it's all about consistency. So that's really cool. Oh, yep. And then so you've just wiggled over the social icons.
Yeah, so I come back to that later. So that's set in the site-wide settings. So those are just white at the moment. So delete that lay-by stack. I've moved the lay-by logo down into that footer. Just change it to the mid-width there. Increase a bit of the left and the right spacing. And a bit of breathing room top and bottom there with the top and bottom stack spacing.
Yeah, brilliant. And then obviously we're going to come through and update that lay-by logo to the new version.
That's right, yeah. So I think we do that a little bit later on. So yeah, I've jumped back here now to that column background image. So just uploading that protein bars image there. So yeah, you'll see the yellow there, so it just sort of ties in. Even the bar packaging has sort of that similar tone to it. Complements the sort of natural brown card packaging as well.
That's right. Oh, yep. And here comes the lay-by logo change.
Yep. So that's the new purple lay-by branding. So delete the old one, and just want to add a bit of corner rounding to soften that off. So go into effects of the picture block and go rounded corners there.
Yeah, there's quite a neat little feature with the picture block too, folks. For those listening, if you're dealing with a lot of logos, you can actually grayscale them on a page, which is pretty on trend. So now you've removed the footer.
Yep, so remove the footer as we talked about before and deleted that, and that little button there, add as a footer to all of your pages. Your last stack you can do that with, so that's now just pushed out to all of the pages. So then I just need to change the color of the, there's actually a little dark bar below the footer there, so I just changed that to a light color as well. So now I'm jumping back to the homepage, and you see the homepage is completely unchanged. So now it's a matter of changing the header. So these changes are happening in sort of a draft state until I click Save Changes. So you don't need to worry about anyone seeing this, and if you don't like it, you can click Cancel and sort of back out. So I've just uploaded a new logo that works on a light background. The green color there, just reducing the size down there. It's a bit close to the top and bottom, so I give it a bit of breathing room. The menu is now white on white, so that's invisible, so I'm just changing the color of that. And actually help them simplify down their menu structure as well. So there was so many menu items in the menu that they were actually almost overlapping the logo. And just it was just quite full on before. So just wanted to simplify that down to shop about athletes, builder box, and contact. So it's really easy to find that sort of shop drop down menu for the key categories from any page.
That's nice. And again, just tying into that Rocketspark design vision principle of being able to create a clear user journey. Having them be able to land on the page and figure out where they need to go to do what they need to do fairly quickly and efficiently is always key. And then obviously editing a bit of the contact bar at the moment.
Yep, so just changing the colours of everything. So using that sand colour again as the background colour in the contact bar. Just reducing the size of those icons down a little bit as they were the tallest thing and they were affecting the height of that contact bar. And just clicking save there. So yeah, I've changed that header site-wide, but the core page content of the homepage is the same. And then yeah, this is the new design. And it's just a matter of changing the name of the old page, changing the new one to be called home, dragging it to the top, dragging the other one out of the menu, and you're done.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jeremy.